Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody who's living in the Matrix right now and everybody who's free. Definitely hashtag call your mother. So for all of those who don't know, recently I was shadow banned, lost my agent, lost a lot of other situations, but I'm still pushing ahead. I made a new post just now. I'm talking about the expansion of the war in Gaza and how the second and third largest shipping companies in the world, which is Maersk and CGM, have now pulled their ships from going through the Red Sea. And I think this is important to point out because it shows that this is the beginning of a new expansion of the war. The problem is this, Karina, you're a crackpot and you need medication. So call me back when your dad gets sober. What I was going to say before I was so rudely interrupted by ignorance is that Israel is building something called the Ben Gurion Canal so that it can compete with what people see as the Suez Canal's monopoly on the region. The only problem is this, is that without access to the Red Sea, building a canal for countless billions of dollars is not going to even be efficient. It's going to be useless. So what we see is Yemen continually attacking these ships without any response or with minimal response. So the question becomes, why hasn't the US or why hasn't Israel attacked Yemen? And I just made a post about that. Oh, shout to the Congo, shout to Shock. I think that, oh, sorry, Karina, I apologize. Yeah, I lost my agent. So I think that what has happened now is people are asking these questions. Why hasn't Israel or the United States bombed Yemen? And there's a reason for that. Yemen was involved in a brutal war with a Saudi-backed coalition from the eastern part of Yemen for the better part of 5 years. It was disgusting. It was a human rights atrocity. And what happened as a result of that is that Yemen was absolutely flooded with Russian, with Eastern European missiles, and with something that we all call SAMs, called surface-to-air missiles. Surface-to-air missiles mean that they can hunt down heat seekers. I mean, it's very hard for even an Israeli plane or an American F-16 to avoid it, even by expanding all of its countermeasures. So what they would end up doing is causing millions of dollars of waste. And also remember that no one below the rank of captain flies one of those things. So if an Israeli officer or a United States officer was caught, what would await them would be a torture chamber, in the same way that I have no illusions that if a Yemeni pilot was caught bombing Israel, there would be a torture chamber there. But the question then remains, what happens now? And I just made a post about it, and because I'm shadow banned, people aren't seeing that post. So if you can, please go to the most recent post that I have and give that a like so that we can fuck up the algorithm and get the information that we have to get to you back on track. What we've seen is that Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, and now the head of the Mossad, ordered by Netanyahu, is going to Qatar, while Lloyd Austin and the Joint Chief of Staff are going to Tel Aviv. Now, these two things are not a coincidence, okay? These two things are not a coincidence. The individuals from our government that are going to Tel Aviv now are not going there to tell Israel to stop, right? We have to stop this anti-Semitism, this ridiculous idea that somehow Israel pulls all the strings in America. No. Israel does what the United States tells it to do. The United States says this shit is over tomorrow. It's over tomorrow. The United States, I'm not paying for this shit anymore. Then Israel has to face the reality that no other superpower is going to support it. Think about it. Where are Russia and China right now? They're not in a rush to support Israel. So what other superpower is going to take over? NATO? NATO has their hands full right now. Callie Frenchie, I'm going to stop what I was saying because I want to go live with you. I think you are a disgusting coward. Callie Frenchie's 559. Fuck you and fuck all your dogs. That's right. Fuck you and fuck all the bitches you hang out with, you piece of garbage. How dare you do something like that? Why would you say this is my fault for what's happening in Gaza because I quote unquote voted for Biden? First of all, that's not even true. Second of all, why put the blame on anybody else except the Israeli government? Biden, Obama, Bush, and of course your favorite, Mr. Trump, has to be held accountable too because he gave Israel a blank check. The whole idea that he was somehow some anti-war president who was really against Bibi when he gave him every single thing that he wanted, including moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So I take offense at things like that because I think that if you're an uneducated fool like you and you make assumptions of that nature where you decide to be totally partisan, you have to realize that the Republican and the Democratic Party are both bought and paid for by Israeli lobbyists. So while you're trying to grandstand playing stupid little games, you could have just kept your mouth shut and not look like a moron, right? There you go. Have a nice day. Oh yeah. Fuck you and all the bitches you hang out with. Cool. Thank you. Now, back to some important shit. I think that when we look at what Mr. Biden's legacy is, shout to my brother DJ Static. Thank you. When we talk about what Mr. Biden's legacy is, we have to remember something. There's only two American presidents that have ever halted settlements. And they're actually both Republicans. One of them was President Eisenhower, and the other one was President George Bush Sr. And the reason that President George Bush Sr. was able to do this is because he withheld loans from Israel and said, if you don't stop the settlements, we're not going to give you any more loans. And so what happened as a result of this was them stalling the settlements in the West Bank for roughly, I want to say 18 months, which was insane, And what happened to George Bush Sr.? The next election cycle, he ran against two Christian Zionists. One of them was named Ross Perot, who ended up with 19 million votes and the entire state of Texas. And the other one was another Christian Zionist named Bill Clinton. And I believe that Bill Clinton's legacy now needs to be re-examined because he is a complete fraud and he's been given a pass as an individual who thinks that he's some kind of liberal giant. And the same has happened with Mr. Biden. He got one of the biggest political makeovers in all of American political history. He went from being a racist Christian Zionist to being the happy, loving grandpa who conveniently forgets all about murder and crime because that's what happened. And I think it's disgusting. People accuse me of being partisan at a time when I'm openly denouncing this guy. And there was even an idiot in here who claimed that I voted for him, which is insane. The other thing I want to talk about today is there was an incident here in California. I came out here to visit my grandmother. For those of you who don't know, I'm on a porch in Cali right now. And if we have to have a conversation for a moment about what's happened with some of these individuals. There were activists in Riverside that were arrested, Enamorado Alex and another series of people, and they were arrested because the government has accused them of making terroristic threats and other things of that nature. So what they actually do is protect street vendors here in California. And what happened as a result of them protecting street vendors was that they exposed several people who are racist and also connected to the local police department. And in light of that, they were arrested, charged with terroristic threats and a slew of other trumped-up charges. I've spoke to a few people that are connected close to the case, and I'm looking forward to trying to help them in whatever way I can with legal support, because I think that their case deserves to be heard, and they deserve to get protection for those people. All they ever did All Alex and Wendy and Jag and all these people ever did was call out violent racists who would go to places. They confronted a lady who was followed into a bathroom in Disneyland and verbally assaulted and spit on or something because she was speaking Spanish to her daughter. What sort of pathetic outrage is this? They're not a gang. They're not terrorists. They're just regular people who wanted to help the local community. And I think as a result of that, they were branded as some kind of hate group, which is insane. Because I've never heard these people spew hate. It's not about hating white people. They're white people who hang out with Alex and them all the time. And they're opponents of that disgusting racism, right? The group that they have welcomes anybody to come to their platform and speak out, whether they're white, black, or Mexican or Native American. I've never seen Alex turn away an individual and say, hey man, this isn't right. So I think that to me is a development that deserves to be spoken about a lot more. Yeah. Someone asked me if I'm going to continue responding to the person that I absolutely ripped apart. No, because only losers want a rematch. Right? If all you can do is troll a comment after you got the shit beaten out of you, then there's nothing more I can do for you. You know, just pick your little loose ass up off the floor and crawl back to your mommy and take them bitches with you. I want to talk about why this was happening, though. There are several rumors that are going around the internet. Now, listen, I can't confirm these rumors or not, but what was told to me was that some of the people that Alex and Jaguar and Wendy exposed were connected to one of the local police departments in Pomona and Riverside. So while I cannot confirm this is a rumor on the internet, this would explain why the police decided to trump up these charges, because they are now being embarrassed. And this happens in New York City all the time. Whenever relatives of police are caught in something, they immediately go after the person. I'll give you an example. There was a sister of a New York City police lieutenant, I believe, who ran over an immigrant child who was 3 years old and killed her. And she peeled out, right? She left. She rushed away, right? Avoided the scene of an accident. Now, the moment they arrested this woman, all right, or the moment the police caught up with her, their instinct was not to arrest her. She told them she was a family member of NYPD. And instead of arresting her, do you know what they did? They threatened the woman whose child just died with deportation if she didn't drop the charges. Can you believe that? I'm going to repeat that for the people that don't understand. Instead of arresting the woman who ran over the 3-year-old and left the scene of a crime, please Google it. Please, if you don't believe me, please Google it. They attacked the immigrant woman, they detained her, and they threatened her with deportation. And the only reason this came to light is because other activists that were there, that are like Alex and the rest of the people that are doing good work, exposed the NYPD for doing this. So while I think, man, it sounds like they have a pretty strong case against Mr. Enamorado, what I really think is that these rumors may actually be true. They may have actually confronted a member of the police department or someone else who is connected to them. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is true. These are the rumors that I've read on the internet. And I think that it's important that people know that. So these trumped up charges don't come from nowhere. You can't call him a terrorist. He didn't do anything terroristic. When the guy said, fuck you Mexicans and your mariachi, what did he do? He showed up to the guy's house with a mariachi band. How is that being a terrorist? So wait a minute, if somebody says some racist shit to me and I show up to their house with a mariachi band, that's terrorism? Are you fucking kidding me? This is what we're doing now? This is the lunacy that we have to deal with, ladies and gentlemen. So, I'm going to announce a couple of things coming up soon. I got a show. And I want to go back to the Yemen thing in a second. somebody contacted me recently, and we had this conversation about the expansion of the war in Yemen. The United States wants a controlled regional war. It doesn't want an all-out regional war. An all-out regional war will have consequences that they may not get the result of, right? Israel has already lost the media war. In other words, for every clown that you see that comes onto my page spitting some Zionist crap, you're going to get 20 people that respond to them. And I appreciate that. But I think what's more important than just the media war is the international community's complete dismantling of the support for what it saw as a Diet Coke version of Zionism. Now they're seeing that there was never any particular point when Zionism was going to take a liberal turn, and that the idea of it being so was a sham. When people come to me and they ask me about what a regional war would mean, it would mean that a lot of wild card factors would come into play, meaning most likely all of Russia's allies would attack anything. Right. Did this moron say something again? Did this fool with the bitches come out and start talking about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him? What are you doing? Why would you insult Islam? People can see your entire profile. Hold on, let's go back to you. Let's go back to you. You sell dogs and you in Cali_Frenchie. You really want attention from me today. Why would you insult the Prophet Muhammad? Why would you insult all of Islam? You live in the Bay Area, you big bitch. Are you stupid? Don't you know people are going to see this? And that you have the freedom of speech is not under attack like Republicans seem to think. No, you're allowed to say whatever you want. You just have to reap the consequences of that. And no one wants to buy your dirty, dusty dogs that you're probably fucking on the side. Then that's what it is. Anyway, back to some important shit. Because these paid bots have only proved one thing to me. They've proved that individuals are so brave when they're behind a screen, but the moment that people actually find out who they are and they're held accountable for their hateful remarks, because I guarantee you there's plenty of Muslim people that live in your neighborhood, or probably have Muslim friends, and you're out here talking horrifically like that. And oh, by the way, I hate to break it to you, but you know Rebecca was 3 when she married Isaac and he was 40, right? So don't play games with me. I read the Bible, unlike you. It's a beautiful book. You know, the guy comes back at the end and saves everybody. It's a wonderful story. Nothing like a keyboard warrior posting hateful things about Muslim people. I think that's the other problem that we have here. Oh, look who's back. Look who's back. SB Workouts, the guy who got flamed last time. Dude, are you okay? Can you sit down now? You know, SB, if you sat down on a bowling ball, you know your ass would hit the floor, right? That's how badly you got fucked last time, right? SB Workouts could sit on a lollipop and tell you the flavor, okay? So I'm not scared of you. There's nothing intimidating about you people, right? You're soft butt. So, look, I hate to tell it to you like that. And I've turned this into a comedy show when it should really be about politics. But instead, I've absolutely decimated these morons. And that's what we're going to keep doing today, as long as these people keep getting it through their head. You're soft butt. There's nothing intimidating about you people intellectually, physically. Come on, bro. When are you going to get that through your head? Nobody's scared of you. Nobody's intimidated by your rapier wit. You didn't come on here and say anything intellectual. You didn't blow me away in any shape, way, shape, or form. You just showed me what it's like when someone grows up in a household where their mother hates them. It's horrific. You know? I'm glad I didn't grow up in a household where my mom hated me. That would turn me into a different person. You know? My mom loved me. Mwah. Again, listen. I come on here and I try to be informative. I don't try to be rude or disrespectful. You guys never see me just attack people for no reason. I mind my business. And when some goofy fuck wanders in here, tumbling into the conversation with a bunch of insults, that's what you're gonna get. And for me, I'm just a mirror. If you come and approach me with respect, today I had an argument with a guy on Twitter, but he was very respectful. He said, these are the things that I think are, we had a comment about liberal Zionism and whether that's actually real or possible. And instead of screaming and yelling at each other, we actually had a constructive dialogue. And that's why I feel sorry for the people that come in here screaming, because instead of actually having a constructive dialogue, instead of actually having a conversation with people who you don't agree with, which is what conservatives always claim that they want. Oh my God, yo, this is wrong. Yeah, well, you're the one who's afraid to have a conversation with someone who thinks differently than you. Because if we put my ideas up against yours and the excuses that you have for the genocide that's going on in Gaza right now, it's never that. No. That's just fundamentally wrong. I think it's cute. But that's the whole point that you have to understand. That's the purpose of getting paid trolls, so that people can distract you from actually talking about it. So whether these individuals are government agents or not, they've already served the purpose of a government agent, which is try to dissuade me from having a conversation about the almost 9,000 children that have been killed in Gaza. And these cowards are out here cheering that. They're actually cheering the death of these children, which is why I think that you're a disgusting human being. And there's nothing intimidating about you intellectually. There's nothing cool about you, because all you're doing is coming up for creative ways to excuse thousands of children being dead. And I think that that's just cowardly, right? And also, it's sad that, someone would come and argue with a rapper and ignore their parents, right? Yeah, that's just sad. Why would a person cheer the deaths of other kids and then make a comment laughing about how they didn't, as if we can't read your comment history? It's just cowardly. But again, these government agents have served their point. They're trying to distract us from the conversation, and the conversation will never go away from what we needed to go away from. That Netanyahu is a puppet of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, that Mr. Biden is a war criminal, and that as much as these people suck Trump off, the reality is that he was a war president too. He just didn't start any wars, but he came and he continued them. As a matter of fact, he supported that monstrosity in Yemen for the entire time that it happened. He gave Israel a blank check, and he moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, right? I think that that's insane. I think for people that don't realize, he dropped a Moab on Afghanistan, right? And at the same time, we can't make excuses for these things. I hate to break it to you. But again, we started out criticizing liberals this morning. See, that's the difference between me and these clowns. They're only going to criticize, whatever they think is communism or socialism, even though they're not intelligent enough to actually have a conversation about any of these things. Right. That's funny. And now the conversation becomes, who will be involved in the reconstruction of the new Middle East? How will that actually work? That's a wild card, because if there is a massive war, it's going to result in a lot of territorial changes and also the destabilization of an entire region. And I think that's much more dangerous than people realize. It could lead people into World War III. Oh. It's very sad. I wonder, when people ask me, how do I see all of this ending? Do you remember a long time ago, I want to say a few years ago, there was a really racist reporter, and she came out and said, how could this be happening? How could we let this happen? What's happening in the Ukraine? How could we let this happen? in a white country. What a racist, belligerent cunt to say that. But how about this? We know that NATO and we know that the European Union cares more about Europeans than they do about Arab people. And yet they have allowed that war, which is a meat grinder, to go on forever. Do you understand? They've allowed that to go on in Ukraine, and thousands of people die every month. It's crazy. More people have died in the Ukraine than have died in Gaza. However, more children have died in Gaza than have died in the Ukraine and all of the things before it. Someone asked me about kids in Iraq. I said, oh, when are you going to talk about the kids in Iraq? When are you going to talk about the kids in red states that get married off when they're 13? You know, there's no legal limit in age in some of those Republican states, although I think Maine and I think it's Vermont too, which are blue states, have to take credit for that. So while you people are busy marrying children, right? What is it? Oh, SB Workouts, here we go again. He said that the Incas sacrificed children. No, there were indigenous societies that predated the Incas whose warrior castes were buried with the children of their enemies. So that's completely different. I think what you have to understand is that in their age, they believe in a spiritual afterlife. That's why those people were mummified in a fetal position, something you obviously know nothing about. So when they conquered a people, or this is pre-Incan times, that's what I think is so interesting. You have now conflated two different civilizations, right? That's like saying, hey, you know, Americans wiped out all the Native Americans among the Pequots and everyone in the Boston area. No, that happened with Dutch and British people. The United States didn't even exist back then. You know, it just shows me how you have a rudimentary understanding of history. So if you want to hold the Incas responsible for committing atrocities, I can name plenty of atrocities they committed. None of them equal all of the horrific things that Europeans and white American colonists did. I'm sorry to shatter your narrative, my friend. And to also, you know, shatter the poor education that you received. Yeah. One other thing I want to be able to discuss is the mosque of Al-Aqsa. Now, when we try to frame this as a religious conflict, I think that's wrong for a lot of reasons, because it discounts all of the Palestinian Christians that are affected by this. And it also discounts the countless growing number of Jewish people that are completely opposed to the genocide and the atrocities that are going out. And I'm happy to call those people my friends. I'm happy to march side by side with Jewish Voices for Peace. I'm happy to call people who are against the genocide my friends, regardless of what color or what religion they have. And I'm proud to say, hey, I stand by those people, because they get hell. They get called self-hating, they get called fake Jewish people, or every insult that you could possibly imagine, just because they have the audacity to stand up to the Israeli lobby and say, you don't speak for me. So stop framing this as some religious conflict between Islam and between Judaism. It's not. It's not. And that shows your pathetic ignorance, that a person would make this all about Islam versus Judaism. It's not. It's about a political ideology that is born in the 1850s, which is a response to European anti-Semitism, right? Someone wrote here, I'm half Polish and some of my family died in the camps. Well, how would your family that died in the camps feel if they saw little Palestinian children starving to death in those camps? Would they feel great? Would they feel avenged? Those aren't the Germans they're doing it to, right? Those aren't the Germans they're doing it to. Those aren't the people who hurt your people. You just taking out your rage and your anger on somebody else. I think your ancestors would be ashamed of you. I think they'd be disgusted. So let's go back to Al-Aqsa. While it's only religious freaks from the right wing in the United States that are calling for the destruction of Al-Aqsa, let's not pretend that there aren't plenty of Democrats that are out here calling for the Temple Mount Society to somehow be funded. And I think my brother Loki did something about the Temple Mount Society and talked about how it was an alternative for some people to be able to serve in, instead of going directly to the military. That was the ability for them to siphon off and still complete their military service by being part of the Temple Mount Society. So what does that actually mean? The Temple Mount Society means that they're going to destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque and replace it with the Temple of Solomon that is underneath it. Before the Greater Israel Project, before anything else happens, before any of that, they're going to destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque, and that will cause a regional war. That will cause a World War III, because it is one of the holiest sites in Islam. And for them to think that they can be so brazen as to do that, the Saudis are barely in charge of their country now, as are the Jordanians. They rule by fear because their people support Palestine, and they know that their government is heavily involved in normalizing relations with Israel, right? I think that's the main point that we have to understand. That's what we're dealing with. Anyway, I was recently contacted by a group of Palestinian artists, and they asked me if I would be down to do a benefit show in London to help some of the organizations that need immediate aid on the ground in Gaza. And I'm proud to say that I have agreed to do this. I've agreed to do this in London. We'll have a show. I believe it's going to be in February at some time. They're going to send me the flyer soon, but I appreciate all the support. We're also going to do probably another one back here in the States, and then long-term plan would be to eventually go there myself, but it's great. I also have just a regular show in January 17th in San Diego. I'll post the information for that. Someone asked me, have I ever talked to Norman Finkelstein? Yeah, plenty of times. Plenty of times. He's a good brother. Always have a spirited conversation with him about a plethora of things. But yeah, of course. Haven't seen him in a while, but I've always enjoyed the conversations that I have with people about that. One another person that I want to say that was very helpful to me having a better understanding of some things, especially the covenant that Hebrews had originally with not creating a state. I would like to thank Rabbi Jonathan Rubinstein, who sat down with me and painstakingly went over the idea that yes, there was a covenant that people had. It was not officially in the Torah or the Talmud, but it is an unspoken covenant and something that went along with the legacy of Judaism as it was handed down from father to son, from mother to daughter, to say, no, we're not going to create a state until the Messiah comes back. And that covenant was broken through the Holocaust, according to Zionists. Well, modern Zionists. But it's still a very hard point of contention between Orthodox, Torah, Jewish people, and also Zionists that they're opposed to. Will I ever be on the Joe Rogan podcast again? I haven't talked to Joe Rogan in a long time. As I see, he's mentioned some stuff about Gaza, but he hasn't really gone into that much detail. If he asked me to come up there and talk about it, I would, but I don't invite myself to people's houses. If someone doesn't invite me to some shit, I don't go no more. Do you understand? There was a time when I would just show up to shit because I thought it was the right thing to do. And I've understood through time and experience that it's the wrong thing to do. You don't go nowhere until somebody expressly invites you. So unless someone expressly invites me, I'm not going to just show up banging on the door begging to be on nobody's show. And that doesn't come in a negative way. Same thing with Piers Morgan and anybody else. You think I haven't been invited to that? You think I haven't been invited to other things? I think it's just a question of me telling people that their platform and advancing their platform doesn't necessarily advance the agenda I have. So I don't know. It's not a negative conversation though. I don't have anything against Mr. Rogan. I've always been cool with Joe. Never had a problem with him. He's always been an open-minded guy, and I guarantee you that he hates what he sees going on in Gaza. So I wouldn't think anything. You know, don't say he's a bad person. He's a good guy. I don't know what limitations he has on what he can say about it, but definitely there's been other stuff. Someone said, you've been somewhat quiet since the lockdown. How? What are you talking about? I started a charity. We feed thousands of people every year. So while other people were bitching and moaning about wearing a fucking mask, I put on my big boy pants and I started a charity, and we raised about $150,000, and we started feeding people from the projects who had lost their job, lost their social security, and lost everything else. What are you talking about? I still started doing features here and there. I started working on new music, started working on a new studio. I rebuilt my fucking life, dude. I'm sorry I didn't do it quicker. I'm going to go over the Alex and Amarato situation one more time very quickly for the people that are new to this situation, but we already talked about it. Recently, a group of activists was arrested and charged with terrorism and a series of other ridiculous charges. These people are the same ones that protect street vendors, and therefore they feel like they were targeted because of this. And the rumor, and I express this again, the rumor is that one of the people that they exposed for being a racist was connected somehow to either the Pomona Police Department or the Riverside PD. Mr. Q Unique, God bless you, man. Tell your son not to beat me up, Unique. Matter of fact, I need a bodyguard. Tell him to come work for me, man. But my friend Alex Inamorado was arrested because he was exposing people who were beating up street vendors, robbing street vendors. It didn't matter. And listen, he was an equal opportunity employer. He went after white people, black people. There were even Mexicans that were hating on other Mexicans that were like, yo, you're illegal. Get the fuck out of here with your taco truck. And he went after an Armenian guy who owned a gym, you know, another Argentinian dude. So it's not like Inamorado was being racist about this stuff. He even went after other Latino people who were being racist towards immigrants for no fucking reason, you know? And he had people that were white and black that were helping him out. This is not a race thing. I think it's disgusting that the police is trying to frame it like that. That's absolutely disgusting. Alex and all of them had a coalition of people. Now, were the majority of them Mexican? Sure. But they had plenty of white people. They had black people that work with them. That's insane. They weren't causing a racial issue. If anything, the people who worked in the street loved it because there was less violence. And there were more people that were saying, okay, cool. There's someone that's going to that's going to take care of them. It is heartbreaking. I think that when we look and re-examine kind of the legacy of these police departments out here, you're going to see that the moment they get some kind of public political pressure, they immediately go into attack mode, right? They immediately say, hey, we're gonna try to rip you up. Someone say, I want to clarify, I'm pro-Palestinian because of what happened to my Polish family. Oh, wow, 14. I appreciate that. Thank you for the clarification, and I apologized if I seemed confrontational in the conversation before. So back to what I was saying. The people who were involved in this, Alex Inamorado, Wendy, and a series of other activists, are being branded as kidnappers. Now, let me just explain why that charge was put on things. In any situation that I've ever been in, where I have a confrontation with a person and a person says, I really want to leave, I will let a person go. I'm not a bully. I'm sorry. I threw Lin-Manuel and Miranda in a trash can 25 years ago, dude, when I was a fucking stupid kid. It wasn't like I did that yesterday. I'm not a bully. I don't go around starting fights with people, right? If somebody attacks me, though, I have every right to defend myself. I have every right to be able to say, hey, fuck you. Don't come at me. But if I keep somebody somewhere and somebody says, I really want to leave, I'm scared, I say, all right, cool, you could go. Because if I stop that person from leaving, they can claim that I tried to kidnap them. Now, that's easily debunkable in court. Like, if I'm not holding you permanently, if I'm not shackling you to something, you can't claim that I'm doing that. So that's what I mean by it being a trumped up charge. Literally telling somebody you can't leave is a form of, like, misdemeanor kidnapping. So I think that is what they're going to try to hit them with. What's up, Pop?
What time do you want to leave? Flight is at 4.
Like an hour.
An hour?
I'm on live, Pop. Sorry, my dad's talking to me. Give me 1 second. No. En una hora y media.
No, 45 minutos.
¿Está cierto?
It's at 4.
Como tú digas, entonces. What do I think about Ye's rant video? Dude, stop asking me about other rappers, bro. There's plenty of important shit that we got to talk about. Yeah, so just to wrap everything up, it's been an incredible experience for me to be able to serve the community as an activist. And I understand the dangers that come with that. As soon as you start making an impact, right? Which is what Alex and these people were doing. They were making an impact. They were actually making sure that people got help. And I think that at some point it became necessary to have a conversation about how we proceed trying to help the community, even though we're not just fighting against the people trying to fuck up the community. We're also kind of in a tug of war with the police department because they're trying to protect some of the people whose behavior is indefensible. Right. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. For those of you that don't know, yes, I was shadow banned. So if you can, go to the most recent post that I have, which is a video talking about the starving children of Gaza and giving an update on what would potentially happen if Yemen entered the war and why they haven't attacked Yemen. And for the people that don't know, it's because after the war in Yemen with the proxies of Saudi Arabia and Iran, massive amounts of military equipment were left there, kind of like they left a lot of stuff in Afghanistan. And one of the things that was left in abundance in Yemen were a series of surface-to-air missiles. And this is the reason why you're not getting a lot of people from Israel and America calling for them to bombard them. Because with a surface-to-air missile, it's just going to cost them plane after plane after plane after plane. And also, if Saudi Arabia attacks through its proxy on the east, the Yemeni Houthis have threatened to use Iranian suicide drones, the same one that they used before, to blow up the Aramco station. So I think it could definitely have potential to explode into a much larger conflict, which is what Israel has consistently been calling for, but the United States is a little bit less eager to engage in, because it knows that flipping of a coin will leave Russia in charge of a lot more things. Yeah, I think what's happening between Armenia and Azerbaijan is disgusting, and it's also more of what is played out through the chess game of the United States and Russia. Now Russia is obviously going to support Azerbaijan, and America is saying it will support Armenia. So it's definitely going to become a regional conflict where players will be lined up, based upon who their allegiances are. But just remember, all of those countries, including Israel, are being put on the front line of World War III like a crash test dummy, right? They think that America's their ally, but America's just setting them up to take the first hit because they don't want to. Do you understand? That's what's sad about it, that they can't see that people in Israel who think that evangelicals love them. No, they don't. They don't love you. They think that you have to die for the Messiah to come back, right? Just like I tell the people who complain when I say, hey, we have to stop the war in the Ukraine. They say, no, keep fighting till we get all our land back. And I say, what are you talking about? Don't you understand the United States has already sold you out? You only have 3 months more of ammunition left in the Ukraine. And after that, NATO has offered you maybe 3 more months. You got 6 months of ammunition left. Then your guns don't have fucking bullets and the Russians will run you over and they'll kill your people. That's not what I want. They set you up. They set you people up to die just so that they could grind down Russia's army. Imagine hearing that as a Ukrainian person, hearing the reason that my people are dying, the reason they're all being killed is just so we can weaken the Russian army. The reason that the people of Gaza have to be displaced. Why? So you can have access to your Levantine pipeline, so you can get fucking natural gas that you can give Europe so that they don't have to take Russia's gas no more? So that they can make a fucking new Suez Canal through Elliot? That's why all the people in Gaza have to die? Fuck you. It's horrific. And that's why Yemen is, ladies and gentlemen, the X factor. Because while Yemen is there, 100%, it makes it impossible to enter the Red Sea. Right? The Sea of Aden, that strait, it is a death corner. Look it up on the map. The most western tip of Yemen. If anybody else has time today, look it up on the map. It is such a tiny strait. It makes it impossible to go through there. Anyway, I gotta start packing, getting ready to go home. I came out here to visit my grandmother and take her with my father to the hospital, make sure she's good. I'm blessed to have her. She's gonna be 95 years old, and I'm proud. January 17th, I'll post the flyer today. And please go to my page. And if you can, give a like to the most recent posts that I made, especially the most recent one where we talked about the expanding war in Yemen and the starvation going on in Gaza. I definitely got to fight back against the algorithm because I was definitely shadow banned. And now I'm just going to start plugging whatever I can. Like I said before, after I announce this show, I'm going to announce also a benefit for Gaza coming up this week. So I appreciate all your love, all your help. And I'll tell you what, January 17th in San Diego only has like 400 seats. It's in a really small place, like 450 seats, right? But if it sells out, they told me they'll add another night. So I appreciate you guys. I love you. And I don't know if I'm going to save this one, but yeah, a bunch of people got smoked today. It was kind of fun, actually. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And I hope that you get to wherever you're going safe. And I don't mean wherever you're just driving to or wherever you got to go today. I hope that you get to wherever you want to be in life safe. I hope you're happy. I hope you find someone you love out there who loves you as much as you love them. I hope that you make peace with your demons from the past. I hope that you let go of your hate and your bias. I hope you find something that you love to do. and that you want to dedicate your life to. Love you, people. And if I don't make it, somebody pick up the flag and keep running. Okay? I love you guys. Inshallah, I speak to you again soon. Okay? Mira, siempre es un placer hablar con toda la gente acá. Y es un honor mío tener la oportunidad de siempre estar conectado con la gente que no solamente soporta la música que yo hago, pero también soporta el mensaje que yo tengo, que es uno que es global y que tiene el potencial de agarrar la mentalidad de la gente que está siendo torcida por la propaganda que nosotros vemos. Okay? I love you guys. I'm going to save this live, but I might delete it. Okay? Appreciate you. Peace. Oh, before we go, got to give a shout out to everyone. So, let me see. Where are you guys from? Let's see. Tell me where you're from and I'll give you a quick shout out before I get out of here. All right? London, UK is in the building. Okay? London, UK is in the building. We got Bakersfield, California in the building. Where else? Reno, Nevada is in the house. Okay. Colorado's in the house. Pomona is in the house. Australia's in the building. Oceanside, California. Shout out to Fresno. Trap House. Gambia. Chicago. Nigeria. Virginia? Virginia. The great state of Virginia. Fort Wayne, Indiana. San Fran. Ontario, Canada. Duval County, Ecuador in the house, Oaxaca in the building, and North Carolina. I'm out of here. Peace.